mean, come on, buddy. Look at what's going on in Brooklyn and Philadelphia. Like, give me a break. Welcome back, y'all. Thanks for joining me on Player to Be Named Later. I'm G-Man. I'm gonna get into a little Raptors talk. As usual, can't go too long without talking about my favorite team, the Toronto Raptors. Before I get into what's going on currently, I was just able to finally watch the Raptors documentary done by Uninterrupted Canada, from prehistoric to historic. I thought it was a great watch. It really encompassed everything that the franchise and organization has gone through during their tenure in the league, during their 30 years. I really enjoyed it because it really gave positive vibes throughout the entire documentary. I'm a day oneer. I was at the draft. Most of the Raptors' existence has been, a lot of tough times, dark times for the franchise. I thought Uninterrupted did a great job just kind of, explaining those times, but not really dwelling on them. And I think that's an important aspect that can't be overlooked when it comes to a documentary like this, because it really tells the story of where this franchise is these days. And even though they're right now caught in, more of a retooling, rebuilding phase, this doesn't feel like other rebuilding phases that I've seen throughout the entire time, their 30 years of existence. And I've seen it all. There's not really any despair in this retool rebuild. I think they're in the perfect spot right now. And I think you're hearing a lot of American media complain about the Raptors and who they're sitting. And I think they're doing that because they know the Raptors, how good they'll be next year. And adding a top 10 pick to this team and what they kind of have moving forward, I think there's a lot of envy from the rest of the league, as the East doesn't really get that much better and the Raptors do. So shout out to Uninterrupted Canada. You all did a great job with that documentary. If you haven't watched it, make sure you go in and watch it. It's on Crave. It's really worth it. Whether you're a day one fan like me, or just becoming a Raptors fan, or joined in the middle of the pack, it relates to everyone if you're a Toronto Raptors fan. So well done. And on to the Raptors. Like I was saying, the position they're in right now, I think, as I've kind of preached since the start of the year, this, when this team was 8-31 or whatever they were, even at that time, from my simple eye test, there was a lot of talent on this team. There is a lot of talent, and now it's only that much better. The American media is complaining about the team sitting their starters at the end of close games, or not even playing them at all. And that's because they developed their depth and developed their young guys, and everyone's up in arms about that. But it just goes to show the development kind of model that this team and this organization has instilled, and it makes a lot of sense of where they are and where they're going to go from here. Their young guys look good. They're putting in that work. They're winning games because the franchise does not promote losing, and this is their way of showing it. They're developing guys. Now, obviously, they took, back-to-back losses here in the last couple of games. But before that, they had won, I think, 5 of 6 games. I had seen a tweet from some Sturm guy or something, saying that the Raptors should be investigated and maybe a draft pick stripped. I mean, come on, buddy. Look at what's going on in Brooklyn and Philadelphia. Like, give me a break. Even San Antonio. Like, you get blessed with Victor Wembanyama, and, De'Aaron Fox pretty much writes his own ticket on his way and says he wants to play with Wemby and ends up in San Antonio. And now you guys are basically tanking again. I know Wemby's injury couldn't be avoided, and it's a really serious one. So, I hope he's back soon. But the whole point more is not really to point fingers at San Antonio. It's just like, why are you picking on the Raptors? All they're doing is developing their young guys, which is what they said they'd do. And they want a healthy Brandon Ingram for the start of next season. Various guys have had pretty serious injuries this year. So instead of looking at maybe a team like Philly, who Joel Embiid fully came out and said at the beginning of the year that he wasn't playing back-to-backs. Paul George had more podcast posts than he did points at one year, I believe. What happened to Tyrese Maxey? Who knows? He disappeared. Really, the only one that I could say that I saw a real injury there was Jared McCain when he went down with a serious injury on that team. And, they had a 25-point lead yesterday against Houston going into the fourth quarter and lost. So don't look at the Raptors and talk about them and, what are they doing? I think they're just fine where they are. Everyone needs to get over their Cooper Flag obsession for Toronto. It was never in the works. I mean, like I said, this team was always better than it showed because of the injuries and schedule. This team wasn't as bad as what they were in the first half of the season. And even sitting their main guys, they're coming up with wins because, Masai and Bobby hit on the draft. So Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, even though he's out right now, Jameson Battle, you're going to get really good play out of them because the Raptors know how to scout talent, they know how to draft talent, and they know how to develop it. And next season is going to be a breakout season for this team. You hope we can actually see them all play healthy together. There's been a lot of talk about RJ Barrett becoming a kind of trade piece right now. And again, I think that's because he's unlocked another side of his game through Darko Rajakovic that he didn't have in New York playing under Tibbs. And you can see what's going on in New York right now. They might be winning a little bit here and there. But now you're starting to see those cracks with Tibbs and his players because he grinds them into the ground. When they get to the playoffs, they're going to be in trouble, personally, what I think. And I'll just be laughing at the Knicks, whatever. If you're a Knicks fan like Stephen A. Smith, you'll be probably crying your way out of the playoffs at some point just because of how Tibbs coaches his teams. I'm surprised OG, as a Raptors fan, I'm surprised OG has really lasted through all of this because once he gets an injury, he's usually out for a while. Back to the Raptors, looking at the draft, looking at who they might bring in, I'm really starting to, and I had said it a long time ago, really starting to like Malwatch from Duke, 7-2 center, has the pick and roll game, is working on his three. We've seen Jakob apparently working on his three. If a guy like Brook Lopez can turn himself into a more perimeter 7-footer like it did between, going from Brooklyn to Milwaukee, he started shooting that three. If Jakob puts in the work and starts shooting that three and we draft a guy like Malwatch from Duke, I like how this team looks moving forward next season. I've been saying that all year. I believe in them and how they're building their squad. And Masai and Bobby Webster obviously know what they're doing. They've taken some losses here. I think Phoenix wanted to get them back after taking that loss in Toronto a couple of weeks ago. That wasn't too much of an unexpected result. And as the season winds down and the NBA starts to move into playoff mode, I think there's some really interesting matchups out there that could happen. Things are in flux right now. Obviously, OKC and Cleveland are really controlling both conferences with big leads. Kind of know that they'll be the number one seeds. I think OKC is not getting the respect that they maybe deserve. A little understandable. I think teams are, it's almost like what the Raptors went through when they got to the playoffs. Teams really keyed on DeMar and forced other guys to step up. And, when they couldn't do that against teams like Cleveland with LeBron, that's where those series were lost. You have LeBron, you have other players like Kyrie who were really able to put their stamp on those kind of playoff series. And you see that with OKC. If teams start to, in the playoffs, things shrink. If they start to key on Shea, can Jalen Williams handle that, that extra scoring pressure that will be needed? I hope so. I think he can. If Chet Holmgren is healthy and can add to that, and plus they're absolutely stellar on defense. They lock teams up. Their entire starting five is just a defensive lock. So I think OKC can surprise some teams. In the East, I think, between Cleveland and Boston, Boston just really relies on that 3-point shot. And, you can't blame them. Every single guy that comes into that rotation can literally shoot the three and they hit. So, and then you have obviously JT and Jaylen Brown who can finish at the rim, who can get to the rim when you need a bucket in crunch time during the playoffs. So obviously Boston will have something to say. Milwaukee has the I don't think they have the bandwidth to go all the way. I think can they get out of the first, maybe second round, probably, but I just don't think Giannis and Dame have it in them to get to the finals. I don't think they're better than Boston or Cleveland. I think this might be Cleveland's year to really show the NBA what they have, at least this version of their team. Donovan Mitchell's putting on a show. I think Mobley, this is the best I've ever seen him play. Jared Allen is, he does his thing quietly, but it's very effective. Darius Garland. But the depth they've kind of built with Max Strus, DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome, these guys give them a lot of different outlets to, when their guys are sitting to get things done. So Cleveland will obviously have something to say as well. But I would say, those three teams, but then you throw in the Lakers. You can't count out Denver this year. I think Jokic and Jamal Murray will have something to say before the end of the season, before the playoffs are up at least. They have that veteran squad, that core that won the championship is all still there with Jokic, with Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Brown. They have their guys who are on that team that are still there. So they can definitely make it happen in the West also. So yeah, I think the playoffs will be interesting as the season winds down here and we see what happens. I'm really interested to see, next season as things play out. Unfortunately, it would have been interesting to see what Dallas could have done. But unfortunately, Kyrie's injury just puts a whole damper on their entire season, whether AD comes back or not. I don't know if they've shut him down yet, but I really wanted to see Dallas play together healthy. Kyrie, AD, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington. I think with that length, they would have had something to say as well. So I still can't believe that team traded Luka, man. And you know what? Everyone's shouting for Nico Harrison. Listen, that was completely on the owner. That owner did not want to pay Luka. They're casino owners. You're not talking about Mark Cuban here. You're talking about casino owners, and they probably looked at the numbers. I don't want to even get into all the other stuff about what they said about Luka. But everyone puts that on Nico Harrison. I think that came honestly down to the owners and Nico Harrison's being a good soldier. Personally, that's what I think. Everyone's going to blame Nico, unfortunately, for him. But I think that trade really came down to the owners and they're just being cheap about it. So yeah, the Lakers, if LeBron gets healthy, they're going to be a tough out. I mean, a healthy LeBron with Luka, that's pretty that's something you can't ignore. So let's see how things play out. I'm looking forward to the playoffs and getting in to see where the Raptors will eventually draft and who they might add to their squad next year. And yeah, let's see what happens, y'all. Thanks again for watching this video. A little bit about the Raptors, a little bit about the NBA, where things stand right now, my thoughts about how people are looking at the Raptors. For the Raptors fan base and media who, just give up Cooper Flag. There's still a chance that the Raptors, find a way to win the lottery. You never know. Crazier things have happened. They might still end up with that number one pick, and adding Cooper Flag to a team, then you obviously have to look at a big trade involving someone on that squad where you bring in probably a borderline star that can really put you over the top, like what happened with Kawhi. If not, add a guy like Malwatch to the team, turn some of the other newfound talent like AJ Lawson and Jared Rhoden into depth at the center position, which is what they need to back up Jakob Maybe if they do bring in Malwatch, if they're able to draft him, get some depth at that center position, and go into next season healthy. So yeah, thanks again for watching my videos. Please stay tuned to more videos. Keep watching. Watch me on TikTok, on YouTube. I need to get my subscribers and my followers up. Spread the word. Leave me some comments and some feedback. And thanks again for watching.